webinar on strategic partnership and coalition building for policy influence. And recently, we did a webinar on monitoring and evaluation for policy impact. So today we are having our guest, an experienced policy person working in the legislative field with decade of experience when it comes to legislation and policy. And the topic we are going to be discussing today is translating advocacy into policy, looking at how to engage decision makers and influencing legislative changes. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Abdullahi Abubakar Laden. I am the Deputy Convener of the Kabilon Africa Think Tank, an initiative of Empowering Women for Excellence initiative. The Kabilon Africa Think Tank is a community of passionate individuals of African descent living in Africa and diaspora that seeks to see a change in the way Africa is being seen in the eyes of the world, and to begin to see Africa for what it is and what it truly stand for and deserve. We have a community of experts, professionals, and experienced people living in the diaspora and in the continent that are joining in this important movement of ensuring that Africa is truly reflecting on its two lenses. And the Kabilon Africa Youth Country Focus Program is a program that have representation in over 32 countries, with youth selected to be trained in the areas of policy advocacy to see how these young people can be able to push for changes in narratives, especially around pressing issues like education, health, insecurity, poor governance and leadership, and a whole lot of those issues that were identified in our recent publication, where we call it the publication on budget priorities. These publications was able to identify key issues in 3 key countries, and this advocacy is designed to address those issues and even other issues that we are able to identify collectively with the YCEPs who are working together with. And today we are having another webinar to discuss, as I said earlier, translating advocacy into policy. This series of webinars are building participants' capacity, especially the YCEPs, on how to advocate for policy changes and how to design advocacies and engage the right stakeholders to achieve a meaningful result. And today's topic also focus on engaging decision makers to see how they can influence legislative changes when it comes to advocacy. Having been trained on understanding power dynamics and mapping, and having been trained on how they can leverage digital tools for effective advocacy, how they can build coalitions, how they can identify key pressing issues in their various communities and regions, and of course, being trained on how they can monitor and evaluate the impact of their policy advocacy. So today we'll build on that, on understanding how to translate this advocacy into policy. And our guest today is Mrs. Larry Diana Gwani. Larry is a Deputy Director of Legislative Matters in the Kaduna State House of Assembly. She is a faculty when it comes to the Kabilon Africa Think Tank. She has been here with us since the inception and the beginning of the planning of this think tank, and have attended various programs, sharing her knowledge an experience with us and building on our capacity and the capacity of the audience that are attending these important webinars. And Mrs. Larry Gwani will take us on this important topic for the next, apologies, sorry. So Mrs. Larry Gwani will take us on this important topic for the next 20 minutes. And from there, we'll have a 15-minute question and answer session. And then we'll do some key announcements and updates, and we'll go from there. So this program will last for just another 1 hour, 5 minutes from now. And we hope to stay within time so that we can all go back to our various activities. But I promise you, this is going to be very, very much interesting session with a lot of takeaways to go away with. And with me here are my colleagues, Sophia Ebenigabadi TRF, the founder of Empowering Women for Excellence Initiative and the convener of the Kabila Africa think tank. And then Uche Brown, a communications manager with Empowering Women for Excellence Initiative and a CAT team member. And Angela Amode, also a CAT team member, and Michael Jones, Chief Operating Officer. So thank you for joining us, and over to you, Sophia, before we go to Larry.
Thank you, Ladan, and thank you to the entire team, lots of team members on the call. But I just want to say a special welcome to Larry. You know, if you want to know about Larry, it's not for talking. Just go to her profile on LinkedIn. Larry is one of the people that, you know, in those days when we used to say people are seasoned, Larry is such a seasoned practitioner. She knows the ins and outs. And you know, the best thing of all, she's a friend of civil society. And it is so heartwarming to find that within systems where it's usually difficult to have an inroad. Larry has been in the work, at least in the legislative work, for over 20 years, 22 and counting. She is a Mary Curry Fellow, which is a Guys and St. Thomas NHS Foundation trust position. She's a site lead for Arise Initiative. And you know, as I said, just look for her on LinkedIn if you want to know all about Larry. But I think the best of all is that she's always there when we call on her. So every time she's here, she blows our minds with the knowledge and with that soft, beautiful wisdom that she brings. I really just want to honor her, and we'll put her LinkedIn profile in the chat so you can learn more about her and support the work she's doing, engage with her, engage with her posts and all that she's doing. I want to celebrate her and say a big thank you. And over to you, Larry.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Of course, if Sophia calls. Thank you, Sophia, for the work you're doing. You know, it's an honor to support what you're doing. And you give girls that platform to say, yes, it's possible to thrive, whatever you're doing. And thank you, Kabila Africa, for this opportunity also. So let's go on. We have 20 minutes. I'll be talking on translating advocacy into policy, engaging decision makers, and influencing legislative change. I think I'm supposed to have slides over there.
Yeah,
but well, I'll just continue. Okay. Yeah. So there are two key concepts I would like us to really understand. That's law and policy. Sometimes we interchange them, you know, they're used interchangeably, but they are similar, but they are different also. So looking at laws, before we go further, I would like us to understand what are laws and what are policies. So laws are official rules established by legislative bodies. So it's only the legislature that has the power to make laws. Well, the God of democracy has given them that power. It's only the legislature that can make laws. They are legally binding. Laws are legally binding on individuals, organizations, and the government. They are enforceable by the court, and violation of laws can lead to legal penalties. You can be prosecuted if you violate laws. Please, I would like to apologize. I'm in the office, so you might hear a bit of noise in the background. I really do apologize for that. Then laws can, example of laws are constitutional amendments, criminal law, traffic law, labor laws. Those are laws. They are legally binding. On the other hand, policies are statements and that guide decision-making within government or organization. So unlike laws that it is the Constitution that empowers the legislature to make laws, policy can be as guidelines. A government can have policies, corporations can have policies, organizations can have policies. It's just what we want to achieve and how we want to achieve what we want to achieve. So those are policies. So it's not necessarily legally binding and enforceable in the same way as laws. Violation might have consequences, but not necessarily legal. So if you violate a policy, you might just lose your job, but you might not like face some laws that are broken. You end up even in jail. But unlike policies, it might just be your job that you will lose. I'm on the second slide. Thank you. So example of policy, we have the National Gender Policy. The recent one that was enacted was the age of being admitted to the university. So that's a policy. It's not a law. So thank you. Relationship, of course, these two have there's a line that connects policy and laws, and so that's a relationship between laws and policy. Policies can inform laws, because policy discussions and research can lead to the development of new laws. So for example, the third slide, please. For example of that is the case of the special states, whereas the policy that gave the 35% affirmative for women in positions was a policy from CEDAW. They saw the need because it's not legally binding. Therefore, a government can wake up and say, well, we're not forced to enforce that anyway. There's nothing compelling us. There's no document saying that we have to do that. That was what brought about the proposal of the special seats as part of the constitutional amendment bill. So if you're aware of that, you will know that there's this proposal of special seats specifically for women, where I think there'll be one extra senator per state, and for the House of Reps, in the senatorial zones, there'll be a woman to represent each senatorial zone. So laws can implement policies, because sometimes laws can be vague. So they can provide the legal framework for you to have a policy. So for instance, let's say like the policy on school feeding for children was actually from the Child's Right Act, you understand, whereby you want children to be able to have access to education. At the same time, they should have nutritional benefits also in going to school. So that came out of the Child's Right Act. Policies can be used to guide the interpretation and application of laws, because as I said, laws can be a bit vague, and it might be difficult for you to just implement them without a policy in place. So let's go to the next slide, slide number 4. So I would like us to pause and understand this concept, engaging decision makers. What do we mean by engaging decision makers? Before we can engage, we need to understand who are the decision makers that we are engaging with. So decision makers in this case include lawmakers, government officials, policy advisors, ministers, commissioners in the state level, local government chairmen, political leaders, who have the authority to make or change laws. Those are the decision makers. And in this engagement also involves building relationships with these stakeholders, getting to know them, know their work. In fact, know what they stand for. Get to find out their hobbies, if possible. You understand? Know just what works for them, what excites them. Just get to know them. And engagement also involves providing evidence. So if you are engaging a policy maker or a decision maker, you cannot come empty, to be honest. You have to come with facts, with data that you have actually researched on the area that you would want a policy to be made on or a law to be passed on, you know. So you have to provide evidence, you have to provide research, reports, testimonials. You have to provide a valid document or valid data to say, we have done this particular research and this is the outcome. This is what we found, and this is the recommendation of what we found from our research findings, is that we would like a policy to be able to curb a particular issue. And then you have to frame your issues in a way that aligns with their interests or political agenda. So really, sometimes it's difficult for you to have a policy being adopted or a law being passed because it's way out of their blueprint, their political agenda. When they are coming into office, they have a manifesto. Oh, in the next 4 years, we want to improve on education. We want to improve on agriculture. So sometimes if you are coming with a policy to build a rocket, so to say, it doesn't align to it in any way, and it is capital intensive. You know what, you find out what the decision maker wants to achieve, and you chase your policy agenda based on their own political interests and agenda. Then also you use strategic communication, briefings, meetings, policy memos. Sometimes, like the sickle cell bill that passed the second reading in the Senate that was sponsored by Senator Katun. Because I work in the sickle cell space, I know what CSOs, advocates, the health workers, I know what they have put in. In fact, you will draft these bills for them. You can't just tell a decision maker, oh, this is what I want, and you leave it on his table. No, tell him the stages that this thing needs to take. Tell him the work that needs to be put in place. Let them understand what they are getting involved in, you know, and that way you'll be able to form partnerships, even with these decision makers, to improve on the development of our society, sustainable development of our society. So let's continue with advocating for policy. Understanding policy advocacy is really important. Policy advocacy is the process of influencing policy decisions to promote or oppose specific policies or courses of action. So it's not, policy is not just to propose or to promote a particular course of action. It could be there is something that is actually, it's actually, the community is actually against, or they're seeing that it's not promoting the progress of the society. Then you have to look at a way of opposing and retracting that policy, or in the case of a law, of amending or repealing the law, because laws can be made, new laws can be made, new laws can be amended, new laws can be repealed. The legislature has the power to do that. Then it is strategic. It is a strategic effort to influence decision makers. We are talking about advocating for policy. Advocating for policy is also a strategic effort to influence decision makers, institutions, civil society to demand, adopt, implement, or modify policies that align with a particular cause. It is also about inclusion. You know, when you're advocating for policy, inclusion is the key. You understand? You must not advocate for a policy that seems one-sided or will just will benefit one part of the society over the other. No, there should be inclusion when you're advocating for policy. This is what the society stand to gain if this policy is being adopted, or this is what the society stands to gain if this law is being passed. Sorry. You have to ensure that policies are fair, are equitable, and responsive to the needs of the community. Advocating for policy also entails effective policy advocacy can lead to significant social, economic, and political improvements by ensuring policies reflect societal needs. So you don't go saying you're going to build them computers when what they need is fertilizer. So you need to know what the society needs per time. And because policy is open-ended, it doesn't end. It's continuous. You just have to keep on modifying, changing. There are some that you will drop along the way. There are some that you modify. There are some that you improve on as it goes on. Elements of policy advocacy. There are various elements of policy advocacy, and it's also what prepares you. It's the tools you need to prepare in engaging decision makers also. So the first one is research and analysis. You have to gather evidence to support your position, using data to build a strong case for policy change. So like the school feeding, when it was noticed that a lot of children are on the road begging, you had to give them the incentive that they would eat in school. So while they are going there because of they will eat in school, they are also learning in that process. So you're killing two birds with one stone. You're giving them good nutrition. At the end of the day, you're actually educating them as well. Public education, you need to raise awareness. You need to raise awareness about the issues and the impact on the community. You have to form partnerships, coalition building. You have to form partnerships with other civil society. For instance, this special seats, I know like 5, 6, 7 CSOs that have come together. International development, they have funders that are actually backing that policy, that constitutional amendments to actually happen. So sometimes the matter might be too big for just you, a person. So you have to form partnerships with others that are like-minded, that have similar goals and aspirations that they would like to see to attain, and they would like to see this policies in those areas implemented. And also lobbying. So lobbying is the key part for legislators. If you want to engage the legislators, you must be skilled in lobbying. You can read about it. AI has made things very easy for us. You can just Google lobbying. You can Google the tips on lobbying, because lobbying is very important in engaging with legislators, and not just legislators, with other decision makers. So tips for effective lobbying, we would like to look at that. You'll have to learn how the legislature works, or whatever decision maker you want to carry out advocacy to. You have to learn how that system works. So in the case of the legislature, you have to understand that a bill can only be introduced to the floor of the House through an executive bill or a private member bill. So you that wants a bill to be passed cannot just come into the legislature and say, this is my bill, I want it passed. So you have to go through a member. And it means you have to lobby the member. You have to tell the member everything including the loophole that you think might happen in the bill. You have to educate the member on the bill that you are proposing to be passed in the floor of the House. You have to know the stages of legislation. You have to know that, okay, there's going to be a notice. That's the first time the bill will be introduced in the floor of the House. Then there will be a first reading, then a second reading, then referral to a committee. Then probably in the committee, there might be a public hearing so that they can gather inputs from other sectors or from other quarters on the bill. Then before the report goes back to the floor of the House. You have to read the report. The report has to be adopted on the floor of the House. Then, before you now slate for third reading. So you have to know all the stages. And when it gets to third reading and final passage, it doesn't end there. So for me, I tell CSOs that advocacy doesn't end, because even when you're done with the assembly, now you have to ensure that the bill that the House has passed will be assented by the governor. The governor should assent, or the president should assent the bill. Because if they don't assent to it, it's just a beautiful document that is on the shelf. You can't use it. So advocacy is continuous. It doesn't end, because even when it is passed to law, you will realize that there are sections that are making it very difficult for you to implement that particular law. So you keep on looking at, because the law now becomes your baby, as far as I'm concerned. You have to be watching it on different stages. If you need to change school, you change school. If you need a lesson teacher, you hire a lesson teacher. That's the way it is with a bill. You don't just fold your hands when it is passed and you say, oh, it has been passed to law. No, what if the president or the governor doesn't assent to it? Then what happens? So advocacy is continuous in every sector, in every institution, in every arm. So you have to go back and forth. You have to engage with the executive, engage with the legislature as well. So you identify key persons and build strong relationships with them. You identify key persons in the House. You have identified, and it's not just the members. Your personal connections are invaluable, influencing policy decisions. Get to know the elected officials and their staff. You'll be surprised that it's the staff that will tell you that the member is on seat. Because sometimes the politicians can be tricky. But if the staff wants you to meet their boss, you'll meet the boss. Because the moment he gets into office, they'll send you a message. Come right now. He's less busy. Come and meet him now. And the staff will be the one to give you an enabling environment, because she would enter, or he would enter, and maybe crack jokes with his boss, and even start telling them about these people that are here, or that they want to come for advocacy. And before you know it, the doors are open for you. And while lobbying, develop a clear and compelling message and communicate effectively. Please don't come speaking grammar. A lot of them just have basic education. It's not all politicians. Some politicians are elected because of the goodwill they have in their constituencies. So you can't come like a professor. You must break down your communication to the barest minimum for these politicians to understand what you're talking about. And that's the same way with lawmaking. If you are drafting a bill, it must be in the simplest language possible. You can't use grammar. You can't use vocabulary, big vocabulary. It has to be, because a law should be so simple and comprehensible to the level that someone in secondary school, in fact, a smart primary school child, should be able to read the law and get what you're saying in it. Then also anticipate objections and prepare to answer them with evidence and reasoned arguments. For instance, I knew when we were advocating for sickle cell, I knew a member said, oh, but there is a law that has passed for genotype screening. But we had to tell them that if the law that has been passed for genotype screening does not prohibit parents, does not prohibit the couples from getting married, it's their right. If they want to marry, they marry. But now, for you to implement the particular newborn screening policy is that you're protecting the child that did not bargain for his parents that are both AS to marry. So that is it, because as I said, there should be inclusion in policies. So by the time we brought out that point, they were like, it's true. You know, the child, it's not the child's fault that the parents fell in love and they gave birth to him or her. So you have to anticipate and you have to be ready with answers to give. Be willing to adjust your strategy based on feedback. So there are some politicians that will tell you that the state is too noisy and we need to go on a retreat to discuss this policy or bill. Honestly, you have to look for a way to take them for that retreat. It's even good for you because now you have carried them for a retreat. You have paid for the retreat. It means they will have to listen to you and everything you have to say. So there are things that you have to adjust. You have to adjust your strategy based on feedback, new information, and changing circumstance. Then in conclusion, translating advocacy into policy is about moving from raising awareness to achieving concrete policy outcomes. So it's not just the policy being adopted. No, you have to ensure that it is being implemented. Because believe me, there are so many beautiful laws that have been passed, that have been assented by the governor. The governor has given assent to it, but it is still on the shelf because the advocacy stopped at it has been passed. Advocacy is continuous. Advocacy is continuous. You have to keep on chasing it, ensuring that it is being implemented. We have this group, this card beam in Kaduna State that actually go around, you know, ensuring that the sections in the budget, that the projects, there's various sectors that they cover. They cover health, they cover education. You know, they ensure that if there is a contract awarded, they ensure they go on their own and ensure that you carry out that contract well. In fact, this group have even resulted to making some people to be queried because they will just go there, their CFOs, they will go there, they will check it by themselves, carry out their research by themselves. So advocacy doesn't just end when it is passed. You must have concrete policy outcomes before you can say, oh, we were the ones that pushed for this policy and pushed for this law and it was passed. You must see the evidence that your policy has produced. Then it requires a strategic approach, building alliances. It doesn't end. You must form alliances with other CSOs. You must form alliances with other advocates. You must form alliances with governments. You must form alliances with the community. You must form alliances. Engaging the right decision makers and using various tools to influence how laws are shaped, debated, and passed. That's very important. You must have that behind your mind when you're advocating for policy. The next page is the reference. You can look it up. We thank God for AI, even as some are afraid of AI, but AI has come to stay, and there are things that are beneficial that AI. Anything you give AI pulls out from different sources and gives you a summarized version. So please ensure that you tank up yourself with knowledge on whatever field of advocacy you want to pursue. Thank you. I hope I was not too fast.
No, you weren't too fast. It was really an engaging and exciting one, and I've been following closely down here. And I'm sure our audience or the participants will have a lot of questions to ask. More importantly, from this session, we got to learn that policy are documents that are open-ended and can be modified and align with particular causes. And it is about inclusion. That's very, very much important. Policy is about inclusion, and it should reflect societal needs, because it's not about what we, the organization, want, but what we were able to identify from the field, and what we get to learn and understand from our various engagement with communities and stakeholders. And one of the most important things that we should put or we should pay close attention to is the element of the policy advocacy that was shared by the speaker, which includes research and analysis, and public education, coalition building, public campaigns, and lobbying. For people that have been following up this webinar closely and attended from the first webinar to this one, you'll understand that these key steps were carefully aligning with what we are currently discussing today. And the lobbying, that is where the understanding power dynamics and mapping, the first topic we treated in this series of webinar, is addressing. And when you talk about public education, is what our second webinar on leveraging digital and media tools for effective advocacy was also addressing. And then we talked specifically about coalition building in a specific webinar, and then more essentially about monitoring and evaluation, which has to do with research and analysis of the data and whatever you are getting to have an effective advocacy. So in case you miss any of this webinar, I will advise you to go on to YouTube. We have them uploaded there so that you will follow up closely and align yourself to whatever we are discussing, because it's surely for the benefit of yourself and the benefit of your organization and whatever cause you are pursuing. So we will quickly take I think we will take 15 minutes for questions, and from there we'll do announcements, and from there we'll close it up. And let's not forget that policies can be passed into law, but it has to be assented by the leaders, the governor or the president. Without it being assent, it will be difficult for it to be fully implemented. And we should always keep away from big grammars when drafting policies. More importantly, when drafting communications documents that have to go to stakeholders or going to grassroots, we don't really actually need much grammars, because the focus is on the impacts and not you or us presenting ourselves as people who know how to speak English. And more importantly, advocacy should continue even after these policies are assented to, because when you stop, the policies stop. But when you keep talking, when you keep advocating, even with a single post on social media tagging the stakeholders, you are continuing the advocacy and you are sustaining it. So thank you so much, Mrs. Larry Diana Wani. We truly appreciate. So we'll take some questions and
sorry, before we go further, it's Miss MS. It's not Mrs. Thank you.
Okay. Apologies for that. So thank you, Miss Larry. So any questions? You could easily raise your hand, use the sign to raise your hands and unmute, or you could easily type it in the chat box and it will be addressed.
So while we're waiting for others to ask, oh, sorry, this question after Nabon. Well done, Larry. That was beautiful. Very informational as usual. After Nabon, I'll ask my question. Ladan, do you see the question in the chat?
Yeah, there's a question from Nabon Kebede. She's asking, how can advocacy groups effectively transition from raising awareness to influencing tangible policy outcomes, especially in contexts where decision makers are not easily accessible? The question is in the chat box, Ms. Larry. She's asking, how can advocacy groups effectively transition from raising awareness to implementing tangible policy outcomes, more especially when decision makers are not easily accessible, when decision makers are difficult to access?
Okay, so you have formed a coalition, because sometimes when people say decision makers are not accessible, I find out difficult hard to really, yes, they are not accessible, but that's why networking and forming coalition is important, because there's always somebody that knows somebody. That's the truth. There's always somebody that knows somebody. There's always somebody that will take you to somebody that will take you to that person. You get, but you can't just stop. But in the interim, what you can do is make noise about it. When you are writing, or when you are talking about it and then sharing it to the public campaigns and all that, ensure that you tag government officials in that post. Whether they like it or not, they will see it. That's the truth. They will see it eventually. They will see it. But I tell people all the time, decision makers are not far, they're not far from us. Because sometimes they even have drivers, they have workers. It is, unless you don't want to see them, really, unless you don't want to see them, and you are not coming out with enough data to back whatever campaign you're trying to, you're talking about, you have put out there, unless you don't have enough, you have not done your research. But if you've done your research, just be putting it in snippets on social media and be tagging them. In fact, sometimes they will look for you. But most importantly is for you to form coalitions. There is somebody that knows somebody. That's the truth. Thank you.
Thank you so much for addressing that. That's to prove the wealth of experience. And Tata also had the same concern, which was rightly addressed by you. She was sharing her experience working at Youth Force Cameroon, where they were able to develop a policy brief after a research, and it wasn't easy for them at all, as she shared. So they paid advocacy visit for lobbying to some institution, but were not able to see the head of the institution. And then they explained to the secretary and scheduled a meeting, but they had not been called yet. So she's picking up some tips from what you shared, and more importantly, remember the coalition building, as the speaker rightly mentioned, because evidently and definitely there's someone that knows somebody. And carefully do your power mapping. And when you do your power mapping, you'll be able to analyze and build steps going from this person to this person to this person to achieving whatever you want to achieve. There's another person in the chat box, and from Abdul Samad. He's asking that, what can you say about empowering communities to advocate for policies affecting them themselves? That is, the community standing up to advocate for policies rather than having organization being in the forefront. Is there any strategy that can be adopted for the community to champion that?
Yes. For the communities, for me, I even feel it's even easier for the communities, because the legislators are part of the community and they are members representing different constituencies. And most constituencies have a constituency office where the legislator is supposed to hold dialogues with his constituents to know their needs, so that he can pass it forward for the necessary action to be taken to meet those needs of his constituents. So in the community level is meet with your legislator. You voted your legislator. So you have the power. It is your right to meet your legislator with your needs and tell them, as a community, we are facing, we have motions being brought to the floor of the House. One, it's a market that was not completed. You understand? And the community was the one that brought that case to their member. And their member brought it to the floor of the House. And they allocated a new place for them. In fact, a resolution was sent to His Excellency for them to allow them to give them a new market, or they should continue using the old one prior when a new one is being built. You understand? And there are communities that come with, they have issues of fertilizers, they have issues. Meet your representatives that you voted. So for me, community engagement is actually faster for getting policy, because the member knows what his community is facing. So he's going to be all passionate because he's going to score political goal. If that policy is passed and the community will say, is this member, he's going to look for re-election. So please meet your constituents. It is your right to table your needs to them. That's why they're elected. It's for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is rightly addressed as well. Abdulsamad, if you are here with us, I believe you have gotten this response. It's even easier for community to champion the advocacy because they are closer to the legislators, and especially in a democratic setting, these legislators know that they will come back to these communities for another tenure. So of course, they will pay more attention in addressing their needs. So before we go to Safia for our own question, we have an organization that joined us, Women and Girls Capabilities and Empowerment Organization. So thank you for joining us in this important webinar, and welcome once again. So over to you, Safia.
Thank you, and really great discussions. Thank you, Larry. I have a question before I speak to other things. And I know we're talking about policy advocacy right now and really engaging, but I'm just wondering, because at CAT, we're looking at our actual situations, right? We have the ideal, and then we have what actually happens. Is there any way to strengthen oversight? Because my thinking is that when you eventually even get over the hump of getting a policy, it becomes, when it's law, everyone just takes their hands off. And we, the civil society, continue to keep, but how can we support or strengthen? What can we do differently to strengthen their oversight functions to make sure that these laws are being implemented? Over to you.
Oh, Safia. Oversight in the legislature is key, is a component. So when you make laws, it is you are meant to carry out oversight. If you pass a budget, you're meant to, because subsequently these policies, some of them you will need budgetary provisions for them. So if they're in the budget, ideally, you're supposed to carry oversight. And to be honest, sometimes I say it. I don't know whether it's happening in other African countries, but sometimes in Nigeria, you see the politicians just comfortable. They become so comfortable. They don't even want to carry out oversight. They don't want to travel. They will tell you that security. But ideally, if they were carrying out adequate oversight of the budget and policies, we wouldn't be having issues of redundant policies or lack of implementation of some policies, because somebody will talk about it. Someone in the committee would say, I'm aware that this thing has been passed. How come it has not been implemented? So for me, it's to pray that our leaders will have the political will. If they have it, then there'll be improvement. Everything will just line up. Everything will add up if they have the political will. Because are they capable? Yes. Are they knowledgeable? Yes. Do they know the right thing to do? Yes. So what's stopping them? There's no political will. So until we move from making politics and elections and elected positions being a meal ticket to actually serving our people, then I don't see the end of it. It's just going to be one circle. We'll just keep on going round and round and round. Sometimes I tell them that I'm exhausted, because we can't be hammering on the same thing for the past 10 years, for the past 15 years. So I think it's the youth. The youths are coming up. If only they can. And the sad part of it, Safia, sometimes we say the youth, then they turn out worse than the old ones. You understand? You give them a particular office and you are shocked at the gluttony that happens when they get to that position. So it's also, I don't know. I tell people that's why Africans are religious people, because we just feel that's where our hope comes from. So we have to stick to him, to God. Yes, that's why we are not religious. It's the major drive because we need to sleep at night. We need to wake up with a smile on our faces the next morning. We need to, and it's only a belief of hope that can make you say it will get better tomorrow. But we can't keep saying it will get better tomorrow. Who is going to get it better?
Well, that's so deep. I think that, coping mechanism for us, and that's the thing. I think it's one of the things that we're trying to figure out even in the space of cat. Like, what really do we need to do differently? Because as you said, we can't keep going over and over and over the same thing. I imagine it must be 10 times more exhausting for you. But that is why we need people like you within the systems. That is, I think, in addition to prayer.
If you have a job for me, I'm willing to port. Believe me.
Going to be posted on YouTube. Take notes, Ladan and Coach. I did that out. But we're all friends here, and I think I'm pretty sure, and maybe the others in the group, we have some other CAD members who are from other countries. Maybe you can drop in the chat your thoughts about, are you experiencing the same thing with your legislature? I would guess it is so, but you can just drop in the chat for us to kind of share our experiences. And I think obviously we need to take this conversation forward and continue it, because that's what Ladan was saying. Our series have been around learning about advocacy and policy and so on, because no matter how much you're screaming about an issue, if you do not follow the correct path of engaging with those that make laws and so on, we're not going to get anywhere. And then the challenge will be how to make sure it's implemented. So thank you so much for that. I believe, yes, Ladan has done a summary of what we've talked about, and I'm not sure, guys, do you want to go into the photograph now? And then we wrap up, and I know you have announcements to make, so tell me, but we are calling Lara again. I think we it's really because I don't know. I mean, how are we going to change things on the continent? Um, we need to find a way. We need to try something different, because all we've been doing is not working, essentially. Bottom line. I mean, of course, there's success stories. Some cases are better than the others. But if you could all, like, I'm asking our other CAT members to share, and anyone else, please feel free to share in the chat. What are your experiences? Do you have the same challenge of, first of all, even getting the legislature or whoever is your decision-making body to listen, to engage? We need to invest resources in that. and then oversight. So let me, Nabon, did you come on for a photo or to contribute? Is it Ladan? Am I handing over to you first? Later on, I can say a special thank you to Larry.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So while we're monitoring the chat box for opinion sharing, especially around legislative oversight, which is a very key important aspect of the legislation, and this will enable us make decisions about things we need to be discussing to shape this advocacy for policy integration and, of course, implementation around the African countries. So I think we'll go for the photos, then announcement, then come over to again Safia, and then Tulare for her remarks, and from there we'll call it a day. So while you are sharing your opinions, you can turn on your camera so you can see your beautiful faces, and we snap a picture. So over to you, Uche. If you can, you could turn on your camera for the picture. All right, here we are. Tata, Nabon, and Sauka, we really want to see your opinion regarding the legislative oversight function and other related conversation. We could discuss that here, or we could pick up the conversation in our WhatsApp group. Are we good? All right, so we're good. Announcement from your angle.
Thank you so much, Ms. Larry. That was an interesting session. I would say we learned a lot. We relearned and then learned again. For the announcement. Okay, for the announcement, the July General Assembly meeting is coming up on 26th of July. That's on Saturday. As we all know, the General Assembly is now bi-monthly, so we are having the first bi-monthly meeting this month on 26th of July by 4 p.m. and it to be hosted by Safidi. I don't know if the visuals for that is ready. To be an open mic discussion for all YCF, 26th of July by 4 p.m. is now on Saturday. I'll still put that in the group chat and it will be everywhere. And also join the conversation. You can follow us on LinkedIn. The link will be on the chat for you to follow the conversation. Join chat, tell everybody to follow the conversation on LinkedIn and share your opinion and your thoughts. That's basically all for announcement. General Assembly 26th of July by 4 p.m. and then join the conversation on LinkedIn. Engage also on WhatsApp platform. Thank you.
All right. Over to you, Safia. Thank you, Angela.
No, just a very quick announcement around our what exactly. Why, Uche, please go ahead. Uche, go ahead. That's what I was going to say while we launch the satisfaction survey. Uche, can you please talk about WISE? WIIS. Or Ladan, either of you. Or Angela. So I don't have to talk about it. Who wants to talk about it?
Okay. So, Uche is coming up.
Okay. Meanwhile, we have the satisfaction survey on. Please give us your feedback. Uche, are you coming on?
Yeah, I think network. So
Okay.
while he's getting ready, we have some series of questions. Just 4 quick questions for you to assess this session and how best we can improve moving forward. So it's going to be a very quick one, and you can see it popped up on your screen.
Okay, so speaking of WISE, the Women in International Security, CAT is an affiliate of Women in International Security, and you've probably seen on social media, we've asked for a call for artistic expression on the 4 themes of the UNSCR, United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325. This is the 25th year of its implementation, and we would like you to please share whatever kind of artistic expression you have on any of the themes. So there are 4 themes in UNSCR. On the website, the CAT website, please put in the chat, you can find the information, the visual, and also in the group, I believe, and also both LinkedIn and WhatsApp groups. Please share widely. It's not just for YCFs, it's for everyone. We want to kind of mark it, especially since the 25th of this month is the International Day for Women and Girls of African Descent. And those who share very, very good submissions, you will be exclusively invited to the Women in International Security Global Networking event on Wednesday, the 30th of July. So if you're sending something in, you will exclusively have an invite to join the international group on Wednesday of 30th of July. And your work will also be featured on all our website and social media as well. So please, I'm sure you've seen it in the group, and you also see it on LinkedIn and see it on EWI social media. While we are finishing up our survey, just want to say a special thank you to Larry. I really can't thank her enough, and she had so much to say, by the way. So if you engage her, we're going to engage her definitely for a longer one, and we're going to do something that kind of connects everything together, because that's one of the reasons we have CAT. It is to develop young, passionate, and equip them with tools and knowledge needed for concrete evidence-based policy advocacy work. So there is a method to the madness where we're going in this journey. I want to thank you, Larry. I appreciate you all the time. We will continue to stay in touch. We'll call again soon. And yeah, thank you so much. And back to you, Ladan. We have 8 responses to our survey so far. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Sophia, and thank you once again, Ms. Larry. Sauka shared something on the chat box about an advocacy, them trying to meet the minister, but it proves difficult. And this still takes us back to the power mapping and the coalition building. Once you chat your mapping, you do a very strategic mapping of stakeholders and the coalition building, you will definitely get some results. Sometimes you don't have to get to the minister directly, but you could go to the PAMSEC or whoever is in the top position or the top of the hierarchy. And from there, you could easily be linked up to the minister, which was the same responses Ms. Larry gave to Navon and Tata. So is that if you could just quickly give us your remark for 30 seconds and we'll close from there.
Thank you, Kat, for the opportunity you've given me to talk. I love to talk. For this opportunity to when you speak, you become more knowledgeable on the thing, because when you talk about it, you hear other perspectives and you're
I think this network, but she will come back. Yeah.
Yes, if we could have more responses while we're waiting. We only have 8.
I am more skilled to the Okay, so sorry.
Okay.
So, and I pray each and every one of us will contribute our quota to policy advocacy, and we will see whatever policy we're advocating see the light of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you, everyone. We should also keep the conversation moving in the chat box in case you have other experience to share or questions you want to ask. So we can continue the conversation in the WhatsApp and in the LinkedIn group. And to our partners that join us, the Women and Girls Capabilities and Employment Organization, we really appreciate you being part of this important webinar, and we look forward to a strengthening collaboration with your organization. And for those that didn't take the poll, remember to do that while we are closing. So have a great day, everyone, and thank you. Bye.